So we're holding the Siman of Taaruvot. We're going to go a little bit into Seif Vav, an overview of that Seif, and perhaps review some of the concepts in the previous Seifim. Kavua and called the Parish, Meruba Parish are quite fascinating. And there's a lot of, as we say in Hebrew, hashlachot, consequences or situations that arise from it. It could be very interesting. Just in reviewing a little bit of what we've done so far, there definitely appears to be a difference if somebody takes meat from a store, and there are many stores that sell meat, and one of them is treif. It has been treif all along, which poses the problem of kavua, where we say that even though you don't recall where you took it from, even though there are 9 that are kosher and 1 that is not kosher, the halacha of bittul here does not apply. There's no real bittul here. The isur is nikar. That's something to keep in mind. The isur nikar will come up again. The isur is nikar, in other words, it's there. And I actually was involved in taking the meat from the store. And we say that because the isur is nikar, the isur is kavua.
Now, how does... What is the thing that is called the meat? I don't know.
In other words, there's no taaruvos in the isur.
But this
what's isur nikar in this case? Isur nikar means not like in the past we said isur nikar means that you can identify the isur. That obviously it's not boto. Here, it's a good point you raised. The term isur nikar is more that the isur is to be found. It's identifiable as to where it came from. In other words, where it is, where it could have been. It doesn't mean that I took the isur, that's the suffix over here, but the isur has been there all along, and we know which store it is. So there's no real taruvos.
So the isur part of the suffix is one that is the isur part of the suffix.
Yes.
The isur part of the suffix is one that is
right.
If it were to be an isur, it would be an isur.
Correct. And what's different about this case is that we're not dealing with the Taaruvot Basar, where you have a pot full of meat, and some of it is treif, some of it is kosher, and we don't know which piece is the treif meat. That's correct.
If you had a shulchan,
yes, same thing. In other words, to be active in buying the piece of meat from the store already poses the problem of kavua here, as opposed to what? As opposed to a situation where it was porish. Porish means that it came from one of the stores, somehow came from there by someone that I didn't involve, right? And or was found in the hands of a goy, not through necessarily a shlichus. That we say called the porish meruba porish, which is a cloud, another cloud, where it resembles, of course, the din of bittul, in the sense that we go by the roiv. Statistically, we say that it's probably came from the majority.
Now, can I take it and sell it to another Jew?
So what? That which is also for me. That which is also for me. No, I cannot.
So
no, it doesn't.
Jew who
Right.
bought it there.
Right.
Would make it kavua.
Right. Exactly. That's the chidush. Right. That's the chidush of
Now,
kavua.
can I sell it to a goy?
Yeah, you're allowed to have hana from
But
it.
the goy could sell it to it.
No, we don't. We're not choishes
And
for
if
that.
the goy does sell it to it, let's say incidentally it
We make
happens.
a Jew cannot buy meat that does not have a seal.
Right.
And if there was a seal, then you wouldn't have a suffix.
Now let's say
right, where it came from.
He trusts the guy. The guy comes to him and says, "I just bought this from Shloiman."
Right.
So he says he figures, Shloiman
Well,
must be kosher.
remember the halachas that we covered briefly. Basar shenisalim min ha'ayin.
He did something
And,
wrong.
there's
Is
no-
it now called by him kavua or no? I don't know.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with kavod. Then it's together basar shenisalim min ha'ayin.
Right.
The
He
Shimon
shouldn't have
is not allowed to buy or
understand.
take as a gift even
He
any
took it
basar
anyway.
that's coming from a goy. Well,
He
things
took it anyway. Now,
things
my
can happen
question
anyway.
is-
Sure.
My question is,
Right.
is in his sense called kavua, or is it in his sense called ruba parish by Shimon?
If there is reason to believe that he could have taken it from,
I gave it to the
yes, exactly.
By
That's
me it
the
was
din.
kavua.
That's the din of the parish, meruba parish. You're right.
So by me it was kavua.
But the only that's the ikar hadin of called the parish. that in the hands of a goy it would be called a portion.
It goes down in its...
But
in
why don't we implement that as halacha?
Yeah.
It's only because of Basar Sheni Salam Nain.
I understand.
That's
So
all.
it's a
In other words,
different-
if we
it's a
wouldn't
different
have,
Isser.
then you're right.
It's a different
If
Isser.
we wouldn't have that, we would have called the parish. You're right.
So it would be
Yeah,
called
it would be
parish.
called a
So
parish.
in other words, if he violates the Isser for Nit'alim in Ha'ayin, if he violates that,
Yeah.
he's only dealing with the code
Right.
of parish.
Or in a case where there's no violation of Basar Sheni Salam Nain because of the circumstances
Right.
are such that it's not a problem. It can be. It's not a problem. That we don't have to
So
be
anyway,
machmir. It would be
goy-
called a parish, right?
So the goy has the koyach to re-Isser from a kavua to a kol
No, he
parish.
never reduced it.
In my hands, it was a kavua.
Well, now that we're going back and getting the facts, right?
The same. In my hands, it was kavua.
Right. Yeah, the only thing is
It was
that
never the same
the Jew will
item
never
you
find
are
out,
making sense.
if he ever finds out that the Jew,
Let's do this a second
Right.
question. If he finds out.
if he finds
Because
out,
he
obviously
never,
it's still usher.
he never found out.
He
right?
did not diminish the isser by taking it from a goy. If he finds out that the Jew had a suffix, the suffix is still there.
What does he find out?
He finds out that the Jew is the one that bought it, and the Jew has a suffix.
So if he finds out
Right.
that it was kavua by me,
Yeah,
then it becomes kavua by him.
Obviously.
But if he doesn't find out that it was kavua by me,
Yeah, he's going by the halacha,
Then
different set of halachas.
and
Right.
that's the halacha that applies by him.
Right,
It's not because
that's
he
correct.
misunderstands
Right.
the situation and
Right.
thinks it's okay.
Right.
That's indeed the halacha that applies.
Yeah.
So the goy does have the power to reduce the severity of the...
Well, in some ways, this is similar
And-
to what we said last time, which the Taz had a problem with. Is it possible that you have half an animal mutter and half an animal aser? Could you have a tar to the satri? Could you have a, what do you call it, a contradiction of sorts? The part of it is mutter and part of it is aser. Right? As the din in Sif Hey, some chatichas may be ruyal iskabed, and some chatichas are not. Why should we say, what's the havamina to say that the chatichas that are not ruyos liskabed should be mutter? It appears from the Mechaber, and it is so, that it's only a chumrah, that in the Taaruvot of a store, in a butcher store, that we find out later after the fact that, there's a treif here. There's a, potential treif here. An animal was treif, and of course was sold to the store, distributed to the store. So we say that the halacha is that after we have found out, you cannot take from now on chatichas aruyos l'skaved, they're not bato. And even chatichas she'ena aruyos l'skaved, you should not. Only because she'ena kol bikim b'zeh. But me'ikar din, there shouldn't be a problem. So the Taz, of course, has an issue with this. How could you say that half should be aser and half should be mutter if it's the same animal? And then we had the story of Vilna. The animals that came back, half stayed behind the store and half were taken home of the same animal. What is the din going to be? If you say that the animal that stayed behind is a kavua, and therefore also, what about from the same animal you took a piece of meat? Do we say that it's also just as much as the other one, or can it really be mutter? So there are various meforshim that say, yeah, that's not a problem. Now, why isn't it a problem over here? The Shach explains. Why isn't it a problem over here in Makulin, in Zif Hey, in a butcher store, of having part mutter meikar din, which are not ru'yus kabed? Because the whole din of ru'yus kabed is a midrabanan. The whole din of kavua is a chiddush too, right? So here it doesn't apply. It's not a problem. Therefore, it's a chumrah. So that was the shach. So in your example too, it can be very possible that at some point an isser can be somehow diminished because the circumstances right now are such that I don't know where it came from. I only see it in the hands of a goy, so I apply the rule of kol the Porsche Meruba Porsche at this point, unless we find out otherwise. As far as finding out otherwise, that was the ra'ah. That was the ra'ah that says that there is a gilu milsa lemafreya that establishes a kavua. According to the ra'ah, it really is that they were all selling kosher meat to begin with. I took from one, right? Regardless of if I know which store I took, regardless of if I don't know which store, even though according to the shach there may be a difference, we find out later that tarfus was delivered that day to one of the stores. We don't know which store got it. Or we know which store got it, I don't know if I bought from that store. At least according to some, it wouldn't make a difference. Apparently, according to the Rashba, it may make a difference. The Rashba, who may agree with the Ra'ah, even though by Taaruvot The Rashba says Taaruvos is different, like the Mechaber says. Mechaber basically brings this down a lot of mice, even though the Tur says different. This is the psak of the Rashba, that by Makulin you have a real Taaruvos. This is not a kavua. Okay, they deliver treif meat to the store. Yeah, but now I have meat in this same store mixed up with other meat that was there from before in the freezer. So the Taaruvos is different. It's not a real kavua, so which makes some sense. The Tur is the one that gets involved in calling this a sort of kavua too, because in the store it's a kavua. And I think everybody pretty much agrees that from now on, right, you obviously don't want to buy meat from the store, exactly, you can't buy, right? Stam, to buy from the store you can't. That's what he says over here. Now he makes the chiluk between royal iskabed and non-royal iskabed, but the point is that from now on there appears to be a issue of kavua, buying from this store.
Any meat?
Yeah.
From this one store?
Yeah.
A quick question again.
Go ahead.
When you use as an example for kol parish, Mikvaot parish, the automatic equation of Niddah.
What's Shulchan Aruch? How?
Well, if I found it lying on the ground.
That's right.
It will be
That's correct. That's correct.
Even though it's in the
right. We learned the din of kol the parish, and then we have to concern ourselves with the din of Basar Shenisav in the Ayin. Therefore, the kol the parish may many times may not make a difference that it's mutter, because I have to contend here now with a different problem, unless it's one of those situations that I am matir Basar Shenisav in the Ayin, that I don't say it could have it could have been switched, it could have been treif. There are circumstances that you can be makel and lenient, but you're right. Yeah, may ikar adin. It may not make a difference in the end. Yeah. All right. So we went on to explain the din of kol the parish that we will see in Sivov, that the last two would become asur. And that was because even though you say kol the parish is mutter, as you gradually take, you can make that claim that you're probably taking from the majority, and whatever the isur remains with the majority. In other words, what you've taken is not the majority. What you've taken is from the majority, right? And the isur has stayed behind. Okay. However, at some point, if you've taken most of it, if not all of it, then what about the last two? There's no roiv. So that's also a machlokes, even though it appears from the Ramah, we will be learning in Sivov that the last two are asur. There may be situations where it's not so. It all depends how it happens. For example, maybe I should just go briefly into Sivov. Sivov discusses Balei Chaim. Balei Chaim ushar dvorim hachashuvim shenis'aru beheter, she'einam b'telem, afilu be'elef. Even though this seif is talking about anything which is not batel afilu be'elef, you will see that the poskim here discussed mainly Balei Chaim. Because the Mekor of this halacha is from a Gemara that discusses Balei Chaim that got mixed up together, alive, where one was asur, for whatever reason. And since they're considered, the Gemara considers them a davar chashuv, besides davar shebeminyan, you may say it's mostly a davar chashuv by themselves. It poses a problem. Now what? What do we do with all these animals? So, Balei Chaim v'shar dvarim hachashuvim shenis'arvu beheter sheinam betin afilu be'elef. The din is afilu im pirish echad min haroiv. Achar shenoida taaruvos, after I know about the mixture, asur. Wow. V'hu, however, the Mechaber qualifies this, that v'hu shehifrisho b'miskaven. It's really only asur, mikar din, if you did it intentionally. Ifrisho b'miskaven. Okay, now there's another question on that. Is that lechatchila too, or is that b'di'evet too? It's always going to remain asur. Okay, that's a separate question. But here the Mechaber says, I'm explaining what I said, that porish from this mixture of Balei Chaim is also is ushifrishu b'miskaven. But in pirish memela, sorry, if it happened by itself, is mutter. Maybe we'll read it on the Ramah says, "V'hoda osu im ifrishu b'miskaven, hayno shelo pirish rak me'at v'nishalu miktzas ha'asurim." That which we said, that also if you were mafresh b'miskaven intentionally, is only shelo pirish rak me'at, a few moved out. V'nishalu miktzas ha'asurim v'mkoyim, some of them still remained. What's wrong with that? There's always a gzera, as we're going to see from the Gemara, that we're concerned that eventually, if you allow this kind of a situation, which may be permissible, mikadin, porish, you will come to take from the kavua, gamkin. If all the animals moved away from where they were in the first place, and at the time they uprooted themselves, some of them moved out. Okay, so this, obviously, to understand this, one has to learn the sugya. What is going on over here? There are quite a few situations where things get mixed up in the Gemara, whether it's an avodah zarah, tabas, the ring of avodah zarah that gets mixed with other jewelry, with other rings, whether it's an animal, or think about the following two situations. I'm going to perhaps just mention the various circumstances, and then we'll put it all together Thursday. There's one case of oisov es benoi. There's an isam in the Torah to shecht the mother and the calf in the same day. Now, what happens if you shechted one of them? You shechted the calf, and the mother got mixed in with a bunch of other animals, and you want to go shecht some more cows, but it could be that the mother is in there. Or the other way around, you shechted the mother and the calf got mixed in with other calves. And you want to shecht them. They're all mixed in. You don't want to be over on the issue of oisov es benoi. Is there any way to deal with the problem? This is a situation of balachaim, chashuvim, that are not boto, shenisarvu. But in that case, you can perhaps bring about a movement of the kavua. After all, we're dealing with a form of kavua over here. The Isur is Nikar. Remember we said Nikar before? The Isur is here. And it's not a regular Taaruvot. It's a form of Kavua. The only thing is that from the Gemara that we will learn, we will see that there is a solution of causing or bringing about a dissolution of the Kavua here. A dissolution of the animals being in one particular place by having them move or disperse. This is not allowed, however, in oisov es benoi. And we will see one of the explanations given as to why the Mechaber did not have an issue with that. There's a machlokes here. Some are matir and some are not matir. The reason why that's not such a big issue is because even if you say it's asr, the reason why it would be asr, that particular example of oisov es benoi, is because you can easily fix the problem. What's that? Till tomorrow. Remember Dava Sheyesh Lo Matirin? Right? Just wait for tomorrow, and it's not oisov es benoi. So that may not be the best example if you want to bring a raya from a halacha. You can't do it over there. Well, you know why? You don't need to do it over there. You can wait till the next day.
It's a relatively small change.
Right. There's another example, however, of a lion. It was a ze'ev, a wolf that entered a herd. You know what's interesting about dogs and wolf, and to an extent mountain lions too. There are certain animals that just go wild, and even though they only have to eat one, they kill all of them. Have you heard about that? Yeah, some of them go wild, go crazy when they see a whole bunch, and even though they don't have to attack all of them. They may attack more than one for the fun, because they're wild or whatever.
The smell of the blood.
Yeah, and that's what happens with the ze'ev. It could happen with a wolf, even with a lone wolf. Now, a wolf came into an eider, a herd of sheep, and he pawed. Some of these wild animals, they have pretty long claws on their paws, and these are quite dangerous. If you look at them, they can be very big, especially the tiger and the lion. They're about 2 inches long. Depends from where you measure. It's a little curved, but anyway, they can do a lot of damage. And this is again Hilchas Tarfus. If you learn Hilchas Tarfus, that's where this problem is posed over there. What happened if it came in and it clawed? And you don't know which one it was, which animal it was. And the problem I had with this, can't you examine them? I mean, you'd be able to figure out. Maybe it dried up, the blood. Maybe it's no longer, you can't see it. It's hard sometimes to see which animal did it claw. Now, it could be that by clawing one of the animals, it made it a treifa. It punctured its lung or whatever.
No, I thought that by these clawing itself, the mark describes it as though it had claws, and the art scroll, it's probably bacteria. claws were dirty. Of the wound itself, of the claw, these types of animals.
The only one animal that I know that has bacteria in its bite, that kills. I didn't say bacteria, but the bacteria that kills is the Komodo dragon. Have you heard of that dragon, Komodo dragon?
Yes.
The Komodo dragon, if it bites, it can sit back and do nothing. It bit the cattle in its leg, and a couple hours later, that cattle will die. That cow will die from the bacteria of the bite.
Speaks about.
Yeah, right.
Gemara speaks about it. Never like example given.
Yeah. No, so there are.
I think Dores.
That's dore. That's what we're talking about. Dores.
Yeah.
Or
That is called-
drosa.
but the Gemara
That's the
says
claw.
That's in the claws. That's the Gemara.
Yeah, well, it's a combination that can deliver a fatal blow through the bacteria, the poison, whatever it may be. But it's not just the bacteria. It's actual, it does a lot of damage.
It's an Yomi.
The main way animals of prey of this kind, lions, tigers, cheetahs, and so forth, kill is by strangulation. And the strangulation is by severing the cord, the trachea and the food pipe. They bite the neck. The only animal that I know that bites the head is the jaguar. It has a very, very strong bite, and it actually perforates the skull and gets to the brain. Interesting. That's what not that it can't do the other one, but it's so strong in that area that it delivers.
It has a strong jaw.
And that's why it goes even after turtles. Yeah, very strong jaw. Yeah. But otherwise, animals you will notice. I mean, they go after the jugular vein, towards the trachea, and they hold on until the animal strangulates or loses blood. Now you do have hyenas who work a little differently. These hyenas, they will actually eat an animal alive. They will go for the kishkas right away and tear up the animal, without going for its veins or anything, just for the belly, the soft spots, the soft flesh. They will basically, what they call in English, disembowel it.
So they're not interested in killing it. They just want to have their dinner.
Yeah, but of course you can imagine that animal is still half alive. Well, they're taking pieces. It's incredible. It's a very, very nasty animal. But anyway, so drusa is usually reserved for a lion and leopards and wolf because of the claws and how they achieve at least part of their ensnaring or killing their animal that they want to eat. So this poses a problem. We don't know if it did or if it did not. We don't know which animal it is, and we have a taruvos again. But that taruvos may be mutter for another reason, right? It's a suffix altogether. That, in other words, if you say kol deporish on that, if you allow a kol deporish from that, to therefore remove the kvias in the group of animals, if you can somehow bring about a dissolution of the kvias, which is really what we're going to be talking about. A kvias can become dissolved by moving animals away from where they were first positioned. So that may be allowed over there by drusa, because it's a suffix drusa. It's not a for sure Isur Nikar, like over here. Here we're dealing with, in various cases, the Isur is Nikar, means the Isur is there for sure. The Isur is there, then it's a question of Kavua. Unless it's called a Porish. But can I do called a Porish intentionally? That's the question that we'll be dealing with. It appears from the Gemara that sometimes that is allowed to happen, but not all the time. The reason why not is simply only because there's a Gzeira. If you allow that to happen, you may do it intentionally, take from the kavua intention. Grab. See? So, but me'ikar adin, there can be a way of dealing with this problem of kavua. So in the case of drusa zazev, in Hilchos Treifers, where a wolf may have come in, it's only a suffix. It clawed an animal, but did it do any damage? It's a suffix. I don't know for sure. So that there may be more leniency in that particular case. So here we have quite a few machloikesim as to what is permissible and what is not permissible. Basically, some say, and that's the shita of Toises, that the porish from this kaviyas, in other words, if you were allowed to, as the Gemara says, to bring about their dispersion of these animals, it could only happen if you don't see it. In other words, you're not direct involvement. You cannot be completely aware of it. then it would be permissible. Or you have the way Rashi learns in the Gemara, that you have a two-stage situation where you have the dispersion, and then you actually have taking from the roiv. In other words, you are actually taking from the roiv, as opposed to the other one where you're not taking. The animals themselves have moved away. They themselves have become all porish. And the key here is all or nothing. Because if you still have some remaining, then perhaps that's not a complete porish. The key is complete dispersion of the entire group of animals.
Can they be dispersed?
Oh, right. So that's another good, very good that you brought out. That made me another difference between, I think, the Rashba and the Gro. I think I just don't remember everything by heart. There's a difference between the Rashba and the Gro as to how a kvias can be dissolved. Does it mean complete scattering, like the Rashba I think learns, or I think the Rashba, or as the Gro learns, it could even be one after another, not altogether scattering, but even one after another. In other words, there could be a diuk in how you learn dispersion or dissolution of the kviyas. But that's what we're going to be talking about here, is can this be done? Because it appears in the Mechaber that v'hushi fishu b'miskaven, only then it's also. But so the Mechaber is the one that learns about in pirsh memela shari. Not everybody agrees with this. Not everybody's paskins that pirsh memela from a group of animals that have a taruvas would be mutter only because of the gzera, obviously. Me'ikar adin, what do you have? Me'ikar adin, this whole thing of balechayim not being bottled balef is midrabanan. Remember? Dover choshuv? That's a drabanan. The whole Indian of and you do have me'ikar in adin Torah called the parish meruba parish. So it's only like the Gemara says in the maskana of the Gemara, in that sugya, that there is a gzera. There's a gzera that you may eventually, if you allow called the parish in that case, you may come to take intentionally from the kavua. If that's the case, we may not allow it. Well, maybe under certain circumstances we would allow it. What are those circumstances? That's what the machlokes is. What is that? To protect the din of kavua.
Which is the Rabbanan?
No, the kavua, remember, is not a derabanan. Kavua is a deraisa. So, but the din of balechayim is derabanan. The only thing is that this balechayim in one place is a form of kavua. Right? Just like in the store, at some point it becomes a kavua. To buy from this store would be a problem. You spoke a little also about the Pri Megadim has a chakira. What happens if, for example, in the case of Taaruvot, where one individual takes all the pieces? See, in dealing with called the parish, which is permissible, me'ikar adin at least, especially before it was Niddah, right? Well, what if you were to take, or even later, by the Ever at least, if you were to take all of them? We said the last two would be Asr. What if one individual took them all? There are some that say if somebody took the last two, it's Asr. And if we don't know who took the last two, everybody who took is, it's Asr. According to those who hold the last two is Asr. Not everybody holds the last two is Asr. Like the crazy Flacy learns, why should they be Asr? If it's called a parish, it means that they all left. They all scattered. In other words, unless you're talking about a situation where actually two remained at any given time. But if they all did leave, did go, did sell, then why should that be any different than called a parish? Each one of them, we can say the din of called a parish. So that,
The fact is still remained, and the two minority of Israel.
Yeah. But the chakir of the Pri Megadim is a good chakir. If we're dealing with one person, it's similar to the other situations where we talked about bitul beroiv, one person eating all three pieces. Those who hold that he cannot do that, we understand that. One person eating all three, in the end, he is pogia in the Isser. He will be getting to the Isser one way or another. Unless you hold like the Rosh, that there is no Isser. So that's the chakir of the Pri Megadim. In other words, if one person did take all the chatichas or the roiv the chatichas, do we still say called the parish? Or do we say that the Isser is berubo? Since he has the rubo now, he has the majority, so he has the Isser. Now, he does say that Pri Megadim, if you took him at once, it's for sure also. Just like the Shach says. The Shach says, in quoting the Rashba, that when are we matir pirish, it's only the pirish mi'utun is shari, is only when you took a little bit at a time. And the roiv is still there. But if you've taken half, that means that there's no roiv left, it's also. In other words, you don't have the roiv. It's also. Chazon Ish also learned that. The only way it would be possible is if you took him one at a time. One at a time, even though they all niskaptu, they all gathered and all pretty much are in one place now, but it came gradually, so it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, let's see, what else did we have? We had we had the case of Vilna, that Pri Megadim brought it down. We discussed that already. We discussed also the machlokes of poskim in the words of the Rashba. If you did take from a chaticha riyul iskabet, is the din of the Rashba only b'diavad? In other words, is also b'diavad or not? Some say that it's also b'diavad, and some say not. I think the Pri Chodesh was matir even b'diavad, in a situation of b'diavad. Another little chiluk was that the Rashba, and Shach brings it down, that there's a chiluk between if it happens in the store and happens in one's home. The case of makulin of Taaruvot, that even though we're machmer in answering all the other pieces, that's only in a store. The shchiche b'rabim, he says, that many people come in and they don't know, they may not be able to distinguish between the various pieces. But if this were to happen at home, then the chatichas haruyos niskabet you answer, but the rest of the chatichas would not be a problem. In other words, we're not goizer, that gzera that we were goizer, that we were choishesh for in the store. In other words, in the house, Shas says very clearly that it would not be a problem. Okay, I think we'll continue Mitzvah Shem on Thursday.